All right, today we're going to take a deep dive into one of the real heavy hitters in traditional Chinese medicine, Xie Tang. This is a formula for intense, acute situations, and its strategy is, honestly, as brilliant as it is powerful.
Okay, so let's jump right in. The name itself is our first big clue. Xie Tang literally translates to drain the epigastrium decoction. Now, in the classical view, that area right below your ribs, the epigastrium, was seen as the heart's opening, kind of like the gateway to the core of your body. So right from the get-go, the name is telling us this thing has a powerful downward action aimed right at the body's center.
So, to really get a feel for what this formula is all about, we gotta go back in time. Its roots go deep, and its purpose has always been incredibly specific. I mean, we're talking about a formula that first showed up in a classic medical text around 220 AD. That's almost 2,000 years ago, and its core actions tell you everything you need to know. It drains fire, it resolves toxicity, and it dries dampness. This is not a gentle rebalancing act, folks. This is a serious intervention for a serious problem.
So, what kind of problem are we talking about? What situation calls for a formula this intense? Well, it's not just any kind of heat. It's a very specific pattern that's known as damp heat excess with interior clumping.
The best way to think about it is like a massive traffic jam, but on a systemic level. Imagine a smoldering, stagnant, toxic fire that's causing a complete and total obstruction in the body's main processing centers, the upper, middle, and lower burners. This isn't just a simple fever, this is a full-blown internal crisis.
And the signs of this crisis, they are intense. I mean, high fever, extreme irritability and restlessness, a flushed red face, red eyes. You get the picture. But the absolute key diagnostic sign, the thing that really screams damp heat, is a greasy yellow coating on the tongue. It's like a bright yellow flag that gives you a visual confirmation of exactly what's going on inside.
And that clumping part is really interesting, because it's not just a feeling of being bloated. This can be a physical, palpable, firm hardness in the abdomen. This focal distension is the proof that the damp heat isn't just floating around. No, it has condensed and it's causing a serious blockage.
So, how in the world do you fight an internal fire like this? Well, the strategy of Xie Tang is just brilliant, and it's totally different from most other heat-clearing methods. It doesn't just try to put out the fire, it literally removes the fire and its fuel from the building.
And this all comes down to a crucial ancient principle, employing draining as a substitute for clearing. You see, instead of just trying to cool the fire down right where it is, the whole strategy is to grab it, pull it downward, and forcefully expel it from the body through the bowels. It's a game changer.
This really highlights the difference when you put it next to another famous formula, Huang Liang Jie Du Tong. Now, they both fight fire toxin, for sure, but Huang Liang Jie Du Tong clears the heat, kind of hosing it down where it is. Xie Tang, on the other hand, uses rhubarb to actively drain it out. It opens the emergency exit and shoves the fire out, which is why it's the choice for these severe clumped conditions.
So let's meet the team of herbs that pulls off this incredible draining strategy. It's a small team, but it is focused, and it is incredibly potent. The formula is set up in a classic hierarchy. You've got one chief herb, that's like the general leading the charge, and two deputy herbs that are like its top lieutenants. They all work together in perfect synergy to achieve one single goal. And the chief, the general of this operation, is Da Huang, or rhubarb. Now, its role here is super strategic. It's not just about causing a bowel movement. No, it's about using that purgative action to blast open an exit route, grab that fire toxin, and personally escort it right out of the system. And then you have the two deputies, Huang Lian and Huang Qin. These are bitter, cold specialists. Huang Qin goes after the fire in the upper body, think the chest and head. Huang Lian targets the fire in the middle, in the digestive center. So together, they gather up all that blazing heat and funnel it down toward that exit route that the general, Da Huang, just created.
You know, here's a pretty cool historical side note. The earliest versions of this formula might have only had two herbs, Da Huang and Huang Lian. It was probably centuries later that scholars in the Song dynasty added the third, Huang Qin, because they felt it just made the formula better at clearing heat and breaking up that stubborn focal distension. It's a great example of how these things get refined over centuries of practice.
Okay, so where do you actually see this powerful formula being used today?
Let's take a look at its main clinical applications.
There are really 4 main areas where Tang is the go-to formula. But, and this is a big but, it's only when there are clear, undeniable signs of excess fire.
First up is bleeding, specifically when intense heat is literally forcing blood out of the vessels. Second, severe inflammation. Think things like angry mouth ulcers or red, painful eyes. Third is what's called unsettled heart qi. That's that intense, can't-sit-still anxiety and restlessness that happens when fire is harassing the spirit. And finally, certain kinds of jaundice that are caused by that same clumping damp heat.
But with something this strong, this cold, this draining, we have to ask a really critical question. Is it safe for just anyone who feels hot or has a fever?
And the answer to that is a definitive, absolute no. And this is so important, because these herbs are so intensely cold. Giving this formula to someone who is already weak, or constitutionally cold, or just has a weak digestive system, well, it can cause real harm. This is for excess conditions only.
So, to wrap it all up, Tang is not some gentle daily tonic. It's a specialist. It's an emergency intervention. It is the perfect example of that powerful principle of draining fire to solve an acute internal crisis, especially when that fire is just too overwhelming to be dealt with in any other way.
And that leaves us with a final thought to chew on. As we learn more and more about the mechanics of acute systemic inflammation, what can this ancient strategy of actively draining fire, instead of just suppressing it, teach us about how we manage the overwhelming fires of modern illness? Something to think about. Thanks for joining me.